Hello, this is Jessie Sletton from Empowering Postpartum, and welcome to the Spanglish World Network's on Zingo TV channel 250 and 251. Please remember to download both the Zingo TV app on the respective app stores on iOS and Android devices. And while you download, please leave us a comment and a rating. The app is free, and Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire and Fire Sticks, Roku Sticks, and it's also available on all smart TVs 2016 and forward. So, again, welcome. My name is Jessie Sletton, and I am your postpartum empowerment coach, helping you feel confident, prepared, and holistically supported for your unique journey into parenthood. And I am very excited about today's episode because it's something that a topic that's extremely important to my heart. I am very passionate about it. And I also want to discuss it today because it is a very relevant topic for many birth givers out there. And what we are going to be exploring today is this desire for us to bounce back after baby. And I think that this is an expectation, something that we envision when we are pregnant with our baby and we are preparing for everything. We just kind of have this assumption that, once we have our baby, once we give birth, once we are out of that, 6-week window ish, we'll be able to just return back to life as normal, right? We'll have our baby with us. We will incorporate them into our lives. And as far as our physical abilities, right, we're going to be able to just get right back to things and have this ideal pre-pregnancy, fit into those pre-pregnancy genes, be able to do all the activities, right? And just be able to do it all alongside our child, right? But here's the catch, okay? What if I told you that striving to bounce back is the very problem that we need to address as a culture and as individuals going through our perinatal time frame? Because our bodies undergo this immense transformation during pregnancy, right? And I think we all know this. We all see it when we look in the mirror. We feel it in our own bodies as we are growing our babies. But it's something that we easily forget because of this bounce back culture that is just surrounding us in the media that we consume, in just these expectations that we have for ourselves, in the way that we are not supported as birth givers in our more modern Western culture when it comes to parental leave. All of these things, it's a very complex situation. And there's various moving parts, right, that contribute to this. But we need to take a step back and remind ourselves that it takes 9 months to create and grow and sustain this whole other human being within our bodies. And during this marathon of an experience of pregnancy, right? And it truly is like a legit marathon, one of the most difficult and rigorous marathons we could ever go through. Our body has had to shift and grow and give so much in order for our baby to thrive, right? And we're not just talking about the actual physical room of, that our body creates to be able to house our little baby, right? That's a huge piece of it. But we're also talking on more of the micro levels with our nutrition and our, vitamins and minerals and all the things that we actually give to our baby from our own body to help them grow and to thrive and to get what they need to be able to, sustain and continue their growth through those 9 months. And so having this expectation of our body and our sense of self and our routines to simply revert back to what it was before and who we were before is just crazy, right? Like when we actually sit down and think about it. It's just unrealistic and honestly impossible. And so, the absolute truth here that I want us all to just hold on to for a minute is that there truly is no pre-pregnancy body to bounce back to. Our journey into motherhood reshapes us on a cellular level. More and more research is coming out about the actual impact of pregnancy and birth and delivery and how it does physiologically, biologically change our makeup, our bodies, just our entire existence, our physical existence, right? In fact, there was a really interesting study recently done where they found fetal stem cells in the blood vessels in the organs of the gestational parent at the time of that parent's death. So we are carrying cells from our child through the rest of our lives. This impact is forever. That's why I always say that birth is temporary, but postpartum is forever. And we are seeing this in the science, right? We're seeing this in the way our body has changed and morphed through this incredible process. And so, the very best thing that we can do for ourselves and for our sweet little babies that we're bringing into this world is to learn to let go of that past self and allow space for ourselves to mourn that person we were before. Because if we don't take that time to acknowledge that feeling of loss or that feeling of, you know, this is a change and it's okay to feel sad that maybe we aren't that same version of ourselves anymore. If we don't acknowledge that, right? Then we can't move on. We can't let her go, that version of ourselves go, to be able to fully embrace the incredible transformation that we've undergone and who we are and who we are becoming after pregnancy and after birth and into this new era, right, of our lives and our physical existence. Because acceptance of who we are now and who we are becoming is the key to fully healing post birth and connecting deeply with ourselves so that we can connect deeply with our little one and really truly have that connective bonding time with our baby during these fleeting months of, the fourth trimester, basically the early postpartum time frame. So in order to achieve this acceptance, really what's needed here is a mindset shift. And this isn't easy because, like we talked about in the beginning, this is so ingrained in our own beliefs and our own cultural understanding and setup. So it's very difficult for us to be able to break free of this, right? I am not saying that this is an easy journey. It's not. But it starts with our own thought patterns and our own mindset about our body and the transformation that it goes through, right? And something that I like to talk about is shifting from this idea of we should to we deserve. So society's expectations of postpartum leaves us pressured to conform, right, to this bounce back culture and expectations. We should lose the baby weight quickly. We should return to work 6 to 12 weeks, or for many of us in the US, sooner after having baby. We should be able to do it all just as before with a baby on our hip and a smile on our face and, don this super mom, super woman cape that we can do it all. We should love every minute of motherhood and parenthood and be grateful for all that we have, right? And diminish the hard. And these lists of shoulds could go on forever and ever and ever, right? Like these are just a handful of the examples that we tell ourselves and that we hear all the time. And the powerful mindset shift that we absolutely need comes in understanding that this bounce back culture is absolute BS, right? It's time that we stop shoulding ourselves into conforming to these toxic beliefs and pressures, right? I want us to just really work on bundling all of this crap up, and throwing it into the garbage can and lighting it on fire, okay? Because we need to shift from this should mindset to this we deserve mindset, trading in all of the shoulds for deserves. So we deserve to honor our body's transformed state, shifting away from the harmful focus of losing the baby weight fast, squeezing back into my pre pregnancy genes, right? To embracing your body as it is now honors that journey that you've gone through. And focusing on nourishing and supporting our body through deeply nourishing and supportive and healing foods so that we can replenish those depleted nutrient stores from the demands of pregnancy, like I talked about earlier, right? When it's hard to eat during pregnancy, if we have a lot of morning sickness or all day sickness, if we are having a lot of food aversions, if we just physically can't eat anymore because it's hard because we don't have any room in our stomach, right? There's so many reasons. Acid reflux, all these things that we run into that make eating difficult during pregnancy contributes a lot to this depletion. And then our body is incredible and it makes up for that by pulling out these minerals and vitamins that our baby needs in order to grow from our own nutrient stores. And so calcium is a great example. It leaches out the calcium baby needs from our own stores to be able to ensure proper bone growth, right? Well, we can be extremely depleted in calcium after pregnancy. We can see this with teeth problems and, brittle bones and all these things that we can experience. And so replenishing those nutrient stores is so vital. And not only the demands of pregnancy, but encouraging healing your birthing wounds after we deliver, right? I talk a lot about in previous episodes and everywhere else that I'm preaching about this, right? That birth is trauma to our body. Our body views it as a trauma. You are after birth, just this alone, for no matter what kind of birth you have, whether it's a more routine vaginal birth or you have all the way up to an emergency cesarean, you have wounds that you need to heal. And everybody has a plate size wound in their uterus that needs to heal, right? We can't see it because it's on the inside of our bodies. But that alone is going to take an immense amount of energy and rest and focus from our bodies to heal. And then on top of that, right, we have our fluctuating hormones that are trying to find this new balance because of all of the things our body just went through. And if you're choosing to breast or chest feed your child, that's a whole nother layer that your body has to keep up with demands for, right? And that you need to nourish your body to help make sure you have a good milk supply and make sure that you're getting enough nutrition still while being able to nourish your baby. Let's talk about another deserve that I want us to shift to. We deserve to have the proper time to heal and to focus on our brand new baby, right? So I mentioned this before, but parental leave in America sucks. There's just really no way around that sometimes. But having the support in creating a plan for your postpartum time frame that really allows you to make the most of the time you do have after birth before returning to work really lessens some of the pressure and creates this space for healing and bonding to happen with just a little bit more ease, right? Until our culture can get it together when it comes to parental leave. We have to figure out what we can do with the time we do have, right? And the supports that we can rely on for ourselves to make this happen. We also deserve to have a safe space to share all of our feelings and experiences, the good, the bad, right? Without these unrealistic expectations and the shame and the guilt that comes with it. So let's be honest here, the highlight reel is total crap, right? There are these gorgeous moments in parenthood, and then there's the really dark and challenging ones too. It's a spectrum. And so this pressure to always look Instagram ready, right? It really has no place in postpartum The entire spectrum should be honored and celebrated, and there should be space for it with a ton of support to get you through those tough moments. And all of this is a part of this bounce back culture that is just so toxic. And I really believe that it's time individually, as we embrace this individually, hopefully we'll see this more ripple effect out into our culture where we'll start breaking these oppressive and damaging cycles of this bounce back idea and start to reclaim the postpartum time frame as a time for healing and this transformative journey of empowerment, resilience, and connection with ourselves, with our baby, and with our family as a whole. So, how do we move from this very crucial mindset shift, right, which has to happen first, to actual everyday action? And it starts with embracing and nourishing our transformed bodies and honoring this miraculous journey that we just talked about, right? And really focusing on fueling our bodies with postpartum specific nutrition that encourages this recovery and this repletion and sustainable energy as we continue our parenting journey, right? Not just in those first crucial weeks and days and months of postpartum, but it's all connected. Long term health and long term parenting connection, right? We have to think about what we're doing now to create that pathway for a more stable long-term health benefits, long-term health and connection benefits down the line in our parenting journey, in our personal journey. So we have to really have this ability to shift from these thoughts, right, and these toxic pressures from society, and then work on the actual action piece next. And one of the easiest and best places to start is this nutrition piece. It is foundational to our postpartum healing and so much more. It's that ripple effect that we see when we are meeting these basic needs of true rest, true um, deep and healing nourishment, right? And making sure all of these needs are being met, we can start building upon those foundational ideas and concepts. And so, something I wanted to share with you all today is the 4 tenets of postpartum nutrition that aren't very well known or talked about in our modern culture. Now, these are very common themes that we see in more traditional cultures who happen to have a lot more reverence and a lot more respect and just a better, deeper understanding of this sacred transformation of postpartum and that this is such a crucial time for not only baby and mom dyad, right? Or birth giver and baby dyad, but for the birth giver themselves and the baby individually. But so many of these cultures really honor that process and really nurture the nurturer, mother the mother during this time frame. And all of them incorporate food and nourishment into these cultural practices and beliefs where they really nurture the nurturer and mother the mother during this time frame. So a lot of the different beliefs and spiritual practices and traditions can vary culture to culture, but these 4 themes are all common within their nourishing practices. So those 4 themes that we see are simplistic ingredients, nutrient dense foods, warming practices, and ensuring that the meals and the food being consumed are fully cooked. Okay. So, those are the 4 pieces that I want you to walk away from today, understanding. So let's dive into those a little bit deeper. So we're going to go through each one of those. So simplistic ingredients when it comes to especially the early postpartum time frame, those first 6 weeks or so, really just means not overcomplicating the foods we are eating. Simple broths, right? Not a lot of ingredients in these meals, but making sure that each of these pieces are, which is the next step, nutrient dense. And there's a reason for the simplistic ingredients as well as some of these other things, they build upon each other. But when our body goes through pregnancy and postpartum, and then the healing process of postpartum and putting things back in place, even physically in our body, right? It is so much energy and time and focus of our bodies going into healing those wounds and getting things back on track, balancing our hormones, creating our milk supply if we're breast or chest feeding, all of these things that we need to allow our bodies to focus on that and not have to focus so much on breaking down the foods that we are eating so that we can get the energy and get those minerals and vitamins replenished in our system, right? And it's even been seen that our body lacks certain digestive enzymes during the very, you know, short term postpartum time frame where it makes it more difficult for our body to break down complex foods. And so these four themes will also help aid in that, where it is easier to digest and make it more bioavailable to pull out these nutrients from the foods that we are consuming. So, nutrient dense foods, what does that mean? I feel like this is a pretty big buzzword out there right now, nutrient dense foods, right? So, let's talk about what that means a little bit more. Nutrient dense foods are typically whole foods, real foods that are unprocessed. Okay. And then they are also high in vitamins and minerals and high in fats and proteins. That last piece is really important too, because fats and proteins are typically two of the food groups that many pregnant and postpartum folks are very depleted on, and we are not encouraged to focus on the things that are actually going to help our body as much in our common dietary recommendations today. A lot of the dietary recommendations that we see for pregnant and postpartum folks are foods that are low fat and are like lean proteins, right? So, lean chicken breasts, turkey, all these things. I am not here to demonize any sort of food or create any sort of food trauma. We don't need any of that added on to what we're already dealing with in postpartum. So, when I share these things with you, I want you to approach this from a standpoint of inclusion over exclusion. And so, really focusing on including more of these foods than trying to exclude other things, right? And each person's body and their ability to digest food and their own personal allergy history and all of these things come into play, right? And so each one of these things need to be customized to what works best for you. But these four main things are things that you can really focus in on to incorporate more of in your postpartum journey. So these nutrient dense foods, high in fat, high in protein, high in vitamins and minerals, are really, really key because that's going to help with this repletion process, right? Where we're going to replenish all of these depleted nutrient stores, and we're going to continue to sustain your recovery and healing while your body is knitting together back all those muscles and tendons that were stretched and all the things during pregnancy, and knitting together those wounds that were created during the birthing process, right? So that's really what we're talking about with nutrient dense foods and what that means. And I'm going to dive into a few examples of some of the things that I highly recommend for these postpartum specific type of foods to look for. But let's touch really quickly on warming practices and fully cooked. So the fully cooked piece definitely ties back to the easier to digest. And also it becomes more bioavailable. And certain minerals and vitamins are even easier for our body to actually access from our food when they are cooked. And there's a lot that goes into this too, with pairing certain foods so that your body can actually uptake the minerals and vitamins easier. They need their little buddy to be able to, get into your system a little easier. So, one example I can think of off the top of my head is iron and vitamin C. So we really need to pair those two to get the most benefit of actually absorbing that into your body. And so, really learning how to pair those things together is super important. So, one of the things that I think about with that example that I love to use is like your spinach, really having like a sauteed spinach with some sauteed tomatoes, right? And so that's going to pair those foods. You're going to get more out of that, and cooking that into some good high fat things like avocado oil or butter, or even rendered animal fat, like stuff like that that you're using already in cooking your main meal, maybe, is just one example. And so, really having that fully cooked, available, easy to digest food. And then last is warming practices. And this is a really fascinating area of cultural practices and how they vary and the extremes of them sometimes. And also what we see in the actual science literature about warming foods, warming practices, and how that helps with healing. So some of these things, that you could be focusing in on is ensuring you're consuming your food warm, making sure you're drinking warm beverages. These all help, allow your body's energy reserves to um, look elsewhere versus trying to bring the food up to body temperature to be able to process it easier, as well as being able to just be comforting, right? There's something to be said about emotional ties to our food and the comfort that can bring. These nice warm meals can just feel so comforting when we are going through this healing process. And then another thing that we can talk about with warming practices, other than food and spices and beverages and those things, um, is like the use of heat with healing. And it's very common. One of the common things I see and hear all the time is about, with postpartum prep is like creating padsicles. And if you don't know what padsicles are, they're like a frozen feminine pad that people have put like certain things on it to help with soothing, your wounds after birth. And while those can be great within the first 24 to 48 hours, it's actually more beneficial for us to shift to a more warming practice and applying heat, warm compresses, warm sitz baths, all those things after that time frame, because heat is actually more beneficial for blood flow, right? Which blood flow can help aid in the healing process. So that's another piece to the warming practices that you can start incorporating. But when it comes to the nutrition piece, it's those warm foods, warm beverages, warming spices, even that can really help your body just start with the healing and the absorption of the vitamins and minerals you're consuming. So, those are the four tenets of postpartum nutrition that I really want you to understand and focus in on when you are making your plans for your postpartum meals. And something that I always see and what I fell into with my first birth is these easy freezer meals, right? We want to just be able to throw in a quick cheesy casserole or lasagna or pasta dishes, all these things. And while those foods aren't bad inherently, any sort of nutrition is going to be better than nothing, right? Like you need to be eating enough and you need to be eating often enough in the postpartum time frame. But they also can add some complicated digestive problems because of those lacking enzymes and the fact that our body is using so much energy to try to heal that it's our digestion kind of slows down, right? And we can see a lot of constipation problems and those kind of things in the postpartum time frame. And so, if we focus more on easy to digest food versus these more complex, cheesy dishes that have, a lot of these things that are hard to digest, we can help ourselves relieve some of those digestive discomforts and really allow our body to focus the energy on where it's needed. And some of my favorite foods that I wanted to talk about, so we can swap out some of those lasagnas, cheesy casseroles, those kind of things with some of these instead, is and incorporating more of these to really help you with your healing is eggs are really, really great. They are one of my favorite foods. They have so much of the nutrition that we need in both pregnancy and birth. Bone broth, I am obsessed. It is one of my favorite foods to recommend in pregnancy and postpartum. It is extremely dense, nutrient wise. It's that warm, comforting, hug in a mug type feel when we are expecting and when we have given birth, right? So that's a really, really good one as well. And then some other ideas are like slow cooked meats and roasts, stews, soup. These are really nutrient dense, warm, simple ingredients that your body can digest easily. So these are some really good ones that you can also make up ahead of time, right? And be able to have those meals to pull out or throw them in your slow cooker. Um, you know, and just it's easier to snack on throughout the day as well. And then fish, lots of fish is very, very good. It's got those fats that are so key for, your recovery, as well as it's very helpful for your milk supply as well if you're choosing to breast or chest feed. So, those are the four tenets that I wanted to go over today and give you some ideas on some of the meals that and the food types that you can start incorporating or planning on incorporating into your postpartum nutrition plan. And this all really embraces this idea of nourishing and honoring our body versus punishing our body and restricting our body and trying to conform to this idea of bouncing back to our pre-pregnancy state that we've covered very in depth in this episode, that it's simply impossible to do that, right? Anyway, so shifting this focus on losing the baby weight, counting the calories, all this junk that does not belong in the postpartum time frame, to embracing and honoring our bodies that we have now really creates this shift in this room for us to have the ideal postpartum that we envision and that we hope for. Because when we aren't having to focus or, really kind of obsess over this idea of bouncing back, we can instead be really present with where we are now, physically, who we are now, mentally, and this beautiful bond that we're trying to create with our baby, right? And this really allows that room instead of focusing so much on that external pressure of trying to get back to something that doesn't exist anymore. So we can actually sit back and relax with our baby and be able to enjoy that new baby smell and those snuggles and the skin to skin time and be able to focus on learning how to feed our baby, whether we're doing chest and breastfeeding or we're learning how to bottle feed them and having those connective times where we're just really getting to know one another and you're getting to know your new role and focusing on who you are instead of how you look is so important. It's so key. And then really we can change this new goal now, right? And we're striving for a new goal of embracing and loving ourselves for who we are and honoring the journey and the miraculous thing that our body just did for us, birthing our baby and creating our baby who is now in our arms, right? And we can focus on that connective time. And I just love that. I love that idea of just saying, screw the bounce back. We're not doing that anymore. We're going to focus on healing and recovering and connection and nourishing our body from the inside out so that we can truly heal and create this foundation of health and wellness from the very beginning of our parenting journey so that we can have a better chance of avoiding some of the things that are so common in the postpartum time frame with mental health struggles, with autoimmune disorders that are skyrocketing in the postpartum population, and all of these things that we are seeing because we aren't focusing on our own health and well-being and nourishment and honoring that and creating plans that allows us to have that as a priority and focus. Doesn't it feel better? Like, I just always, when I talk about this, I just feel lighter. Like, yeah, screw that. Like, who wants to feel so yucky and pressurized to get back to this impossible ideal, right? And even if we manage to get back to the weight we were before, was it in a healthy way? Are we feeling good in our body? It doesn't matter so much how we look, and we can, and it is a struggle. I'm not going to say that it's this easy, like snap your fingers and all of a sudden you're going to love your stretch marks and you're going to love the extra weight and all of that. No, it's a process, right? And it's an unlearning of this like toxic, just yuckiness, right? But if we take these steps in actually nourishing ourselves and focusing on that instead of counting the calories and doing all these other punishing and restrictive things, that's when we can start seeing this shift in how we view ourselves, and really start leaning into that self-love piece. That's so key. So focusing in on nutrition is a huge step in being able to create the postpartum experience that you were dreaming about. And it's so important. It's such a fundamental piece that we overlook. And just from like a personal story piece here, with my first birth, I had no idea how to nourish myself. And half the time I was, eating dry cereal out of bag, like, trying not to spill on my sleeping baby on his head, right? Like just trying to get some sort of sustenance into my body, which again, you need to have calories coming in. So I want to, really stress the inclusion over exclusion sort of thing here, right? But if we can plan for it ahead of time, it's so much easier for us to incorporate that during those really exhausting first few weeks of having a newborn, right? And we can have that ready to go so that we can have access to some of these more nutrient dense foods that we know are so much more beneficial for our own healing and our own replenishment. So, a lot of the problems that I had with my first postpartum experience, I truly do connect back to my lack of nourishment and my inability to understand how key that was to so many other pieces: my mental health, my sleep, regulating my hormones, helping with my breastfeeding journey, all of these things that I struggled with because I really just didn't have this underlying foundational knowledge and how to heal and nourish my body. With my second birth, I had a postpartum specific nutrition plan and foods that I had prepared ahead of time, 6 full weeks of meals and access to really easy, delicious snacks that were all incorporating these 4 tenets of postpartum nutrition. And it was a huge piece of how my second postpartum healing went. It was incredible how much quicker I recovered, the energy that I had, the mental clarity. I had such bad brain fog with my first birth and my first postpartum experience. Like that brain fog was so present constantly. And a lot of that had to do with the foods that I was eating and the lack of sleep and everything that's connected to that, right? And so it was just night and day. This was such a huge, crucial piece of my own postpartum healing and journey that I'm super passionate about sharing it with other birth givers. And if you are ready to cast off this unrealistic and the damaging expectations of bouncing back, right, to your pre pregnancy body, and you're ready to embrace this concept of nurturing and replenishing your transformed self, body, and mind, right? So that you can heal deeply and get the better sleep that you need and support your milk supply if you're choosing to chest or breastfeed, feeling more energized, having more mental clarity, and being more emotionally present because of all of this so that you can connect to your new baby. Then working together with me one on one through my Empowering Postpartum Coaching program is going to be the most supportive, impactful way for you to do that. And my one on one coaching program is 3 months of highly customizable support that's specifically designed to help you plan, prepare, and navigate your unique postpartum journey. And one of the biggest cornerstones to this program is the postpartum specific nutrition guidance and coaching and meal planning that I provide for you. So when we work together, you will actually have the same exact postpartum nutrition plan that I used for my second postpartum experience to help heal and to help just regulate everything back to where I needed to be able to function as a new mom. And it's 6 full weeks of meals and coaching and snacks and just everything that you need to really heal deeply and replenish your depleted nutrient stores and support your milk supply if you're choosing to breastfeed. All of those things are included in this tiny piece of the one-on-one coaching program because it's just one piece of it. We've talked about this in other episodes, but it is a very holistic program. So you get this incredibly foundational piece of the nutrition, but you also get to have the, postpartum planning and creating a plan that is with your well-being centered. So we figure out your postpartum support system. We figure out your relationship support for you and your partner and how you can nurture that and make sure you're on the same page for discussing sharing the parental load before baby gets here and why that is so important. We talk about how to create a plan for your household and how to make sure that's managed so that you can focus on your own healing and connection with baby. There's so much that goes into this program. But I also wanted to remind you that it's never too late to heal from postpartum if you never got to have that experience when you first gave birth. And that's something that is really key. The best approach is the preventative approach, right? But not many of us, because of the way our society is set up, have access or know these kind of things that I offer are out there, right? And so you may be 6 months to a year to 2 years to 3 years after birth, and you're still experiencing some of these things: the depletion, the fatigue, the brain fog, the inability to just be able to function day to day because this healing never happened for you. And now you're just kind of trying to dig yourself out of this hole day to day, right? And so, if you are a parent who's already given birth and you are still looking to have this reset nutritionally for your body, I do also offer my postpartum nutrition planning package, which is just the nutrition piece. Okay, so this is really great for parents who have already given birth or for parents who are pregnant who feel really great about their postpartum planning piece and they have everything that they need for that, right? But they have this missing aspect of the nutrition and they're looking to nourish themselves deeply and to be able to heal and recover in postpartum. Then this would be another great option for you as well. So my postpartum nutrition planning package is just this nutrition plan and coaching. You get 7 coaching calls and access to me to help navigate the plan and make tweaks, along the way, and then getting you back to where we need, where you feel better in your body and you feel like you have had that time to recover and replenish, even a few years after giving birth. So those are the 2 different options that we have working together when it comes to your postpartum nutrition and really learning how to embrace this concept of nourishing ourselves deeply and focusing on reclaiming this time for our own well-being, our own recovery, our own rest, and slow down this postpartum timeframe instead of jumping right back in as if we didn't just go through 9 months of creating a whole nother human being with our own body, right? Like, just it is mind boggling when you really sit to think about this and start like contemplating the idea of bouncing back and these cultural expectations. It's like none of this makes sense, right? But it's just so ingrained in us that we have to start unlearning and reconnecting these concepts in our mind so that we can really embrace and focus on what actually is possible and what actually matters when it comes to our postpartum well-being. So if you have any questions about those programs, you can always read more about them on my website, empoweringpostpartum.com. You can head over to my Work With Me page, and you can see the Empowering Postpartum Coaching banner. Click on that. You can learn more about that program. Or if you are wanting to work together on just the nutrition planning piece, and the nutrition meals and coaching, then you can check out further down the Work With Me page, the postpartum nutrition planning package. And as always, you can message me on Instagram. I'm on there, and you can, reach out and just ask me any questions about these programs anytime. You can also email me as well, so we can discuss if this would be a good fit for you, or which program, if you're trying to decide between the two, we can decide which one would be the best fit for you, so that we can ensure that you are getting the support that you need to be able to truly thrive in postpartum and not just barely survive it. Because that's truly the name of the game, right? Is we want to be able to enjoy this transition into parenthood. We've waited and waited for 9 plus or minus some months, right, and days to meet this precious baby and to embark on this incredible new journey of ours, right? This new chapter of our life. And so we owe it to ourselves to be able to navigate through that time frame in a way where we feel present and we feel good within our bodies, and we allow the time and space we need to actually heal from the inside out, and to be able to make these new connections and have the mental capacity and the physical ability to connect and care for our little one, right? Because we can't care for our baby in the way that we want to if we are not feeling well ourselves. And we do it, we show up, right? And we make sure our baby's getting what they need, but then it gets further into this hole of, just feeling like we are not enough, feeling like we are scrambling to try to get some semblance of wellness and feel good about the path that we're on. And we don't want to have to get that far down, right? We want to be able to start this journey where we are centering our well being from the very beginning, so that we can be more mentally present with our baby and with our partners and with our older children if we have older kiddos, right? So, this is such an important concept. Bounce back culture needs to die a fiery death, in my opinion. And this is the way to do it when we start embracing these ideas on an individual level. It's so important. And beyond just the nutrition piece, too, we also have the other areas of postpartum recovery to consider as well, which is embracing these restful approaches to postpartum and not just try to dive right into everything, right? Try to make sure we are everything to everyone again. Make sure we can clean the house and do all of these things and do all these chores, and, make sure that we're running carpool and all this stuff, right? Like, that's the piece of the postpartum planning that we work together on in the one-on-one program, around making sure we have those plans in place so that we can have the space and time to recover, because we really do need to rest as much as we can with the time that we have for our recovery time, so that we can recover fully and not feel so stressed out, and be able to have that time to focus on nourishing ourselves as well. So these are all super important concepts that are all interconnected, right? And working together, you have that accountability, you have that guidance, you have that space to feel like you are a priority. And it's so much easier to do that when you don't feel alone, because that's how so many of us feel. That's how I felt with my first experience. You just feel alone. You feel run down. You don't feel like you are as important of a priority as your baby is, right? And that it just doesn't matter. Your own needs, your own wants, um, your own just existence isn't as important, and that's not where we want to be for your postpartum experience. I want to be able to be by your side, to help validate your experiences, to validate your emotions, to help encourage you to take these steps that you deserve, to feel like you are the priority and to heal deeply, so that you can have the postpartum and the experience and this entering into parenthood that you are envisioning and that you deserve. So, can we all just agree that we are going to toss aside the bounce back, and we're going to embrace this time of just really allowing ourselves to recover and heal and have this beautiful experience of self-care when it really matters, not the bubble baths and the getting your hair done self-care. We're talking about soul care here, right? Really incorporating and nourishing our mind, body, and soul in the postpartum time frame and planning for that so that it actually happens. So, this has been a really awesome episode. I hope that you learned a lot about how to start making these shifts in your mindset around postpartum. And I am excited to see you back here next week. This show can also be heard on the Spanglish Radio Network, and you can check it out at spanglishworld.ca for all the news and programming. Spanglish World, watch it, hear it, read it, download it, live it. I am so excited you were here with me this week, and next week we'll be back, and we're going to talk about nourishing your relationship with your partner, which is another really big key piece that goes undiscussed in the parenting world. So, very much looking forward to that episode as well. And you can always reach me on social media if you guys have any questions at all, and follow me over on Instagram and Facebook as well as Pinterest. So, we will see you all next week, and I hope you have a great week.